Hello everyone, my name is Jorge Rodriguez. Um, Basically, they asked me, I don't know how many read the case study. Anyone read the case study? All right. So, but basically, you'll see through the presentation has a bunch of information. So the whole intention is that you can keep it, you can take it with you. So you can either email me or it's very heavy or ask Haley and they'll get it to you. There's a lot of frameworks. Basically, what I want to do is try to go through them and relate them to our business and how we work with those frameworks in our business. It is a business to business engineering firm is what we have. So we do highly specialized service company. But hopefully you can relate that to your business. Now, what I would like, every time you see something, stop me that you want to know more, please stop and then we can go deeper into it. But there is a lot of information here, okay? So I don't intend to go very deep into everything, but that catch your attention, you want to go know more, I'll be more than happy to do so, all right? So with that said, this is the case study beginning, and I do find it very interesting because when I started the company back in 1997, internet was still in the dial-up mode, right? So that gives you an idea. But I was very clear in understanding, and don't ask me why, just that sense that you get, that I wanted to do the same services to multiple, the same client in multiple locations across the world, wherever they had the locations. So that's as far as it went, what I wanted to do, all right? Now I will articulate what that means in terms of our strategy and how we go about it. But at that stage, the world wasn't connected like it was connected today. I used to work at Eli Lilly and Johnson & Johnson, and I will communicate with the engineers, my colleagues, whether it was a fermentation process or some sort of process that we were working on in terms of the controls. I will email in a back note system, not an email, my question, or someone will ask something and you'll respond. So that's as far as how the world was connected, electronically or digitally. I guess many of you are here. That's where I was when I started the company. You know, it is a journey where you have extremely limited resources, and you know, ignorance is bliss. But because I wanted to conquer the world, I didn't have an idea of how I was going to go about it, right? So you guys are much better off than I was at that time. And again, what you will hear and understand now in these frameworks, I didn't know it at that time. It basically all came to fruition in terms of knowledge after I went through it. So this is our history in terms of growth. You can see, hopefully some of your businesses experienced 10 times this fast, but it was very fast. There was a lot of white space in the industry. So we grew all the way to 160 engineers, and we were selling 60 million basically in 10 years. So you can imagine in a highly specialized service company, that is brutal in terms of the growing pains of all the systems and processes, because the scalability in service companies is obviously limited by the main resource that is people, right? So, but that's basically the swing that we've had. There is a lot of reason that this is the big crack that happened and how pharmaceuticals kind of slowed down dramatically in their manufacturing investments, and then everything picked up, and thankfully now we're growing more normal. This is where I come from. It probably has a lot to do with how the firm developed, but I come from immigrant parents. My parents are from Spain. I'm the fourth of 5 siblings, and all my grandparents and family were back in Spain. I grew up, I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. So basically every 2 years we will go back to these 2 towns. My mom comes from this town, it's basically 8 houses. My dad comes from this one, it's probably 250. But basically going back, since I was very little, for 3-4 months and live in this other world, it opened my horizons, right? First time I set foot in the US was when I went to school to Syracuse for undergrad. And that's before that, I haven't been in the States at all, even though I'm a US citizen, just because my parents don't speak any English. So it wasn't attractive for them. But first message I want to get across is how you need to pay your dues. It's kind of textbook, and nowadays it's a little bit more crazy because of all the innovation that is transpiring in the technology world. But I did an undergrad in electrical engineering. My concentration was in control systems, which is one of the disciplines of electrical engineering. I worked in the US for 4 years with Westinghouse in a development program for 2 years, and then with them in the manufacturing plants doing automation, process automation. And I continued 5 more years with Eli Lilly, 4 more years with Eli Lilly, also as a process control engineer. Right? So basically, I had like 9 years on my belt doing what I ended up building the company about. And I did an MBA while I was doing working at Eli Lilly, and at night I would do an MBA. That's when the business idea started. I am a true engineer. If you see here, I have my pocket protector and I have my pens. And that's what I do, 2 keyboards and do programming. I went to do an MBA basically because there wasn't a master's degree in engineering in San Juan. So I did a business degree, and by taking the classes, I never heard the word entrepreneurship those days didn't exist, at least back there. And basically, it kind of came to mind that, wait a minute, maybe I can do a business of what I'm doing inside, but from the outside. So that's how the idea started. Oh, oops, sorry. Oops. All right, so what happened in the window of opportunity, and again, I'm going to be talking about our business, which is the one I know, and hopefully you can relate it to your business. But there was a very nice window of opportunity that already closed. You know how they open and they closed. Basically, automation, control systems, computers were going into the manufacturing floor at the late 80s, early 90s. It started by the industries that were not regulated, automotive with all the robots, and food and beverage, and petrochemicals, and water, wastewater, all the segments and verticals that were not regulated. But pharmaceuticals were highly regulated by the FDA and the other governments. So technology for them was much harder to assimilate because every time they embraced it, they needed to respond to the regulatory aspects of it, right? So I was right in the middle of a highly significant investments by pharmaceuticals to automate their manufacturing process at a very considerable way. So I'm kind of a first 1.5 generation in the automation world in the pharmaceutical industry, right? So at that time, the service companies servicing them, dedicated to them, were minimum. There were a lot of system integrators, which is what we're called, servicing them, but those are system integrators that were also servicing food and beverage, water, wastewater, petrochemicals, mining, the other segments. No one was dedicated to them. No one understood the regulations. The regulations came up in 1987. By 1991 is when the industry assimilated the FDA regulations. So you can imagine this was very new. So basically the whole idea is, how do I combine the 3 interdependent fields, which is the instrumentation, the automation, and the regulatory compliance. And I dedicated and I focus in this segment. Right? So now you can start understanding why I wanted to stay in one segment across regions. And you will see why, because I wanted to go deeper in terms of relationship, and no one out there really understood those 3 interdependent fields because it was new, right? So it's basically what is happening now with the virtual world, right? So this is our trajectory. So you can see it's all pharma or biopharma or life sciences, medical devices included. So basically we focus on that. In order to expand that, as markets, they become limited, Puerto Rico or even New Jersey or Philadelphia, whatever the clusters are, you need to expand geographically your presence. And it's a global presence because you need to have local resources based there, since it's a high level contact, highly customized solution, right? Well, that gives you an idea of who we are as a company based on who our clients are. Obviously, they're all huge. They're very big, they're very powerful, and they literally own us, which is nothing wrong with it. This is how the company started. Not as nice as this, but basically my friend had an apartment. He gave me a master bedroom to use. That's my first desk, my first chair, all used. My computer was a used computer. and I borrowed their accountant to teach me how to fill out the tax forms. And I basically did all the payroll myself. I ran the fish tree software, and I did all that. I didn't have anyone in the office for like the first 3 years, even though I was making a lot of money, but I didn't know better, and I was an engineer. So. And this is my car. I used my car for like the first 4 years. The accountants kept telling me, change it. I was selling about $7-8 million, making a very good amount of money. But I kept my car that I bought right after college, just because I didn't know what was going to happen next, and also because I was putting all the money back in the company. The message, at least where I come from, the message is powerful in the sense that you need to reinvest in the company and believe in what you're doing, rather than cash it when you get it and then waste it in other things that are not going to go back to the company. Right? Oops, I keep hitting the wrong button. So the first message I want to get across is the importance of articulating your vision. This is a real story by Mark Twain from his publisher. He sends him a note, need to pay short story 2 days. And Mark Twain tells him, no, can do 2 pages 2 days, can do 30 pages 2 days, need 30 days for 2 pages. The message here is to articulate your vision is extremely hard, all right? It's taken us about 10, 12 years to really nail it, all right? But it's extremely critical, especially if you're dealing with people and your main asset is people, to get the message across. Make sure you can hit it. I mean, it's not the elevator pitch and stuff. It's just very clearly articulate your vision so you can communicate to everyone. It is not easy. This is ours, to be a global leader in industrial automation solutions for the life sciences industry, period. And my goal, and I test everyone that comes across Pacific, that has come across other companies, I read them down and said, what comes to mind first at Pacific? That's the way you try to make sure everyone in your organization and everyone from your clients and all your stakeholders understand that. This is also a very good exercise. It took us about 3-4 years to do it. But it's how, in a nutshell, you can capture all your companies to get it across. We call it our purpose. It's also, by someone, it's called advantage, scope, advantage and scope statement. And it's very simple, but be a global leader of industrial automation solutions, but being a one-source provider of implementation. So basically, you have here what you're going to be giving, to whom you're going to be giving it, and how are you going to be doing that. But this stuff, you've probably taken it in business classes and everywhere, it's so hard to really get the right words and nail it. And I encourage you as you go along, and what you're doing is very important. Basically, you gotta get out there, you gotta get some sales, you gotta get some tests on your product, your services. But as you do that, try to work some hours on these yourself. I didn't do it as soon as I should have, and I think I wasted a lot of good time and opportunities. Right? Because you need people to understand what you're trying to do or what you're trying to accomplish, not only your clients, but also the people that are working with you. This is basically what I wanted to articulate, but this is basically who we are today. And it's very interesting that in 1997, thankfully, internet came along, the world connected, and I kind of surfed that wave, you know. If it wasn't because of that, it was going to be very hard what I had envisioned. But basically, my clients, just so you understand, these manufacturing plants of these clients are identical from place to place in terms of the technology they use and the processes. They're regulated, so once you do a very good job in a town in Puerto Rico, they want you to go to Dublin, Ireland, or go to Singapore and do the same, and it's identical. I can literally go in, or one of our engineers come in, and they'll do the work the same way, right? So that's what I wanted to stay with them and go across their locations. And the reason we're in these locations, and maybe not in South America or India, is because we follow them at the regulated sites. So these are their sites that are approved by the FDA and the EMEA and the other agencies. They do have sites in Mexico, Brazil, India that are not selling to the regulated markets or are not regulated. So then our services are more commoditized. So they don't need us for that. So how you get to all that, or how you get, in a nutshell, to that growth and in an articulated way, basically, probably the most important message you will get from here tonight is get to know who you are. Okay. I went back 3 years to Harvard. That's why you will see all these very well articulated. Spent 3 years studying there at HBS, and I was able to frame everything in a very nice way because I gave me all the tools. But the most important teaching I got from Professor Cynthia Montgomery, head of the strategy unit, was that simple message: who you are. And you can ask that to even Fortune 500s, and it's a mess. Who you are is probably the most important question you'll ask yourself, and the answer will be the most valuable answer you'll ever ask about your business. And I'll tell you why. The first one is very simple. We're a highly customized solution, what we provide, in a high-level contact environment, right? So once you know that's what you do, you need to position yourself in a way that you can generate a profit out of that, right? You cannot have a McDonald's and they have the lady that is serving you asking you about your kids, how you're doing, how's everything, because that's basically, so that's a very low-level contact, and the way you actually generate a profit is by standardizing your process. If you have a very highly customized process, you need to know that you're going to have a high-level contact in order to generate a profit. So that's a very simple teaching, but it's fundamental, right? The second one is one that I love, and it's so true, it's unbelievable. Who you serve determines who you are, and who you are determines who you serve, right? So obviously, I noticed it because all my competitors in Puerto Rico and in Indiana, where we have the offices, they service all the segments. They're a mess. I mean, in many ways, not because they're my competitors, but you talk to the clients. Why? Because it's much easier for me to stay in my region and service all those segments. But imagine what those clients are doing to me, right? So if I'm in life science, it's almost impossible for me to do municipality, water, wastewater in Puerto Rico, which is between corrupt and a mess. They don't even have a department of automation. It's a mess. And here I am servicing the largest biopharmaceuticals in the world with very clean processes, very well regulated, multiple layers in their delivery model. There's no way for me as a company to adjust my company and my culture to serve this other client. It's extremely hard. And then if I go to food and beverage, which is like so low margins, it's extremely nasty environment. So my competitors decided to do that, and then what you create is that your company is all confused, right? So we are extremely focused in one vertical, one segment, and it's just the way we want to do the business. You don't need to do it that way, but it's just the way we elected to do it. But very important to know that once you stay in that segment, it's going to have a lot of say on who you are as a company, right? So with those two frames that I just gave you there, the third one that I really like about knowing who you are is protects you from what I call the Scott misses. The Scots and the Patriots, right? Basically, you'll get a lot of opportunities along your journey, a lot. We've been asked even to have janitors to clean the facilities. They've asked me for services just because we give a good service. And the client says, can you also do this for me? So it is, as you know, in strategy, it's as important to know when to say no as to decide what to do. So watch out for all that noise that is going to come to you and opportunities that may derail you. And it's a hard balance, right? Because sometimes it may be something good and you need to adjust yourself. But there is a lot of stuff that is going to come to you that is pure noise or is derailing you from your goal, right? The sooner you clear the path and understand who you are and the people that is working with you understand who you guys are, the easier for you. You have limited resources, limited time, so it's the easier for you to take those dark forces and knock them out, right? So now, strategy before execution. Once you know who you are, you can start thinking about how you're gonna write that strategy, how you're gonna strategize about the business. This is a beautiful definition from a classmate about strategy. He won the contest when they asked us to write the definition, but it's very practical. Strategy is the purposeful creation of a favorable inequality in a landscape of changing conditions, right? And I guess all your businesses are trying to address that. Make sure you can find that and find that sweet spot for your business. A strategy is an integrated set of choices where you will play, how, and what it wants to accomplish. And now, basically, I just wanted to give you that small piece of theory to put you into our business. You already understood what I said about who we are. So now there's two ways you can differentiate yourself. There's two ways you can compete in business. Actually, a third one is coming along, but the main one is by cost or by differentiation, right? There is now the hybrid through technology that you can be the lowest cost player and be different, right? So that one is the hybrid model that is popular now. But traditionally, it's either by cost or by differentiation. In differentiation, you will differentiate yourself of one of three ways: product quality, process efficiency, or customer intimacy. Service companies, if you're in a service company, customer intimacy is probably going to be what you're going to be doing. That's the way we differentiate ourselves, right? And that's the model that we follow by customer intimacy. Is the way we try to retain our customers and the way we try to increase the loyalty from them so they can refer us to other clients, right? This is how it looks in the strategy map. So now that we know we're going to be differentiating ourselves by customer intimacy, what are the three pillars of that? Very simple: technical competency, commitment culture, trusted brand. All we do in our company, everything management do, is to promote one of those three ingredients: technical competency, commitment culture, trusted brand. The budget, our biggest budget line item of $300,000 a year, is training. We're certifying the engineers as they come out of college, as their new systems come in, so they are the most capable possible, technically speaking. Commitment culture, 24/7. All the site heads, everyone has my cell phone, and they have the cell phones of everyone. These plants operate 24/7. They're running millions of dollars in product, and you need to be there whenever they do. And by the way, 80% of the plant doesn't know what the heck that machine does. So it's a true black box for them. So when they see us and there is problems, it's like seeing God. So you need to be there. You need to make sure they know that you're as committed to their obligations as they are. And the third one, you're always going to be smaller than your clients. Trusted brand. No one gets fired for hiring IBM. So you got to make sure everything you do is to that. So in a nutshell, I just told you our whole strategy. To articulate that took about 15 years, right? But it's very simple. We compete by customer intimacy. That's the way we differentiate ourselves. And we have those three ingredients to foster it. Imagine now that you can tell your management in all your offices, that's what we do. So everything they're coming up, all the innovation, everything they're focusing is, the first question is, which of the three ingredients that initiative is going to be promoted? That's simple. It saves you a lot of money and time. This is the whole strategy map. Again, I put a bunch of stuff here because the presentation, you can have it, you can see it, but this comes from a great article. It's called, Have Problem. If you have problem with your strategy, map it. And again, you can email me, hey, you mentioned this, and I can send you all that information. I have it all. But it's very valuable as you create your competitive advantage. What are the things the organization needs to learn? What are the things that you already know and you need to be running to basically increase your growth through revenue growth or through productivity growth? This is how to articulate it. That's the way we have it on our website, and we communicate it to people. So you can imagine now, once you're very clear, how can you communicate that and document all that and present it to all the employees when you hire them, so everyone knows which direction you're going. And here is how the business model looks like. I guess you all know you need to segment your market. That's rule number one. So we segment our market, which is the biopharmaceuticals. We get to know what is their pain, what is their need, and basically how are we going to manage the two basically critical elements, that is a highly critical, highly technical with a high level of contact. And that's basically through the customer intimacy that I mentioned. So once you get that, you can start capturing that information and convey it in many ways to anyone that you need to convey. This is also very important because my competitors are mostly here. So they're very good in automation and they service multiple segments. Maybe some of your businesses are like that. Nothing wrong with that. We decided to be good in automation, but go deep with one client. Meaning going abroad, going around the world, wherever they ask you. And I've been asked Thursday, to be in Ireland by Saturday, and there I am, You basically you have to do it, right? But it's just, you need to decide where you're gonna play, and it's not like one is right, one is wrong. The problem is when you don't know, or you're not clear, and you start moving back and forth, and that clarity is not conveyed to your team and to your clients, and then it becomes messy. This was in a sign in Boston of a photocopying store, but I found it lovely. It was an old guy, not much sophistication of the sign, but basically, I think it's very telling in terms of the strategy. You have to pick any two. You cannot be all things to all people, and that's where the who you are comes into place. Right? The moment you try to be everything to everyone and you let all those messages come to you, you become missing. So imagine all this that I'm telling you with a client so powerful, so big, and so clear on what they want and where they're going, with unlimited resources. You gotta be sharp. You gotta be like sharp. And basically they also ask you, why are you doing this industry? I said, no, because I'm doing this, and they want to know that you're solid, that your resources are going in this direction, and that's your strategy, and they want to know, they want to hear that. That increases what? Your trusted brand, right? And if you're small and they're always concerned, how you're doing. So now let me take you through what is the biggest challenge in my organization. I think in many, probably the standard or number one issue of many of the organizations is basically alignment. How do you align your organization, its systems, its processes, with the technologies that you have to generate the business that you want to generate? That's my number one head. That's the reason I don't sleep. There is always, how is the incentive program? How do we do sales? How do we align our people with our systems in a way that responds to who we are, right? And this is a never-ending process. But if you start by that clarity of mind, you can start developing systems, KPIs, incentives, compensation, and all the other procedures you need to be developing and systems to be able to have a critical mass that is operating by itself. It's not dependent on you. I live in New York. I don't live in any one of the offices, and mainly because that way I can travel to all of them. But it's very nice when they're all running and operating, and they don't need of me for basic stuff. Right? Any questions? Clear? So another important message is know how you make money. So I know in the technology world it's still difficult, but at the end of the day, you need to know how is it that you're going to be making money. You may have seen it in the service industry. This is the service profit chain. This is the way the academia and the studies have shown, and I do agree that companies in the service industry make money, but basically you have to increase your revenue and you have to be profitable. And the way you achieve that is to customer loyalty. It's very true in my field. Once a client, one of these big companies, is very happy with you, they are extremely loyal. These people are in the partnering world. They want to create, master agreements for 3-4 years. They want to see you grow, and they will be calling. Amgen will call it. Like Lilly will call J&J and say, "These guys are great," right? So at that level, they do that a lot, right? And they don't mind that. It's part of seeing you be strong and be good. And the stronger you are, the stronger they are. That's the way they see it. So basically, you have to focus in the client to feed it back to your company. If the client is loyal, he's going to be satisfied. If he's going to be satisfied, he's going to be continue consuming the services, probably not do it in-house. And once they consume the service, then you focus on what you control, which is your people. So basically, you control these to achieve that result. Same explanation on the leading line, in a marathon, when you're training, you never run, the 26 miles. You always keep going laps, you run hills, you run, you do all the different training steps, but you don't do the whole thing. So it's kind of the same thing. You focus here, and you will see this happen. This is the new, just so you have it in reference, they just came out with a new profit chain for service. They call it Service Profit Chain 2.0. Now I'm taking you to some execution. What did we do? What we did very well, I guess, is we use the client to go abroad. Okay? So basically, I will go into Johnson & Johnson in, Juncos, Puerto Rico, and I will tell them, hey, I'm going to New Jersey. Can you drop an email and tell me who to visit? And they will literally tell me, yeah, this is the person. I'll let them know that you're going. Then I'll email them, can I see you? And say, yeah, come in. Once you're in, right? So the barriers of entry are huge for the people that are not within, but once you're in, if you're giving service to one, you can go to the other one. I bet you, if you have large clients, that's the same way, right? Many times I will, if I did that service with Eli Lilly and I'm going to J&J, I will drop an email on my client in Eli Lilly and said, can you email this guy and tell them that, we're good? And basically, that's what we did for every single office. When we open in the US, we open in the UK, we open in Ireland. We use the clients to refer us and to open the doors for us, and then we basically execute it. The one that I guess I just touched on, you gotta play the game not like the little kids, because these people are huge, they're big. So when you make a mistake, you have to admit it, you have to be very open. They can help you, they can maybe assist you with it, but don't make too many of them because they are very impatient. They have a lot of money, they pay very well, but they cannot put up with, unless you have a technology or something that is extremely dominant, and they will depend on you, right? But it is important that you do your homework and you play like professionals, because the client is very professional and he's not going to tolerate too many mistakes. So that requires you to do your homework, to stay reading, stay educating yourself, and as you're moving your company ahead and you're focusing on that, and that is the core, take some time, step back to participate in these forums and talk to people about the bigger scheme of things. That if you're the one that owns your company and run it, you will need to articulate that sooner or later, whether it's to an investor or to someone else. The style, another one that I like to talk about a lot is who got in that plane and went to all these locations. It was myself. It was basically, it's very hard for you to go and ask an employee or a partner, hey, go there and open the office. Many of these is you go there, you get the phone book, you get a lawyer, you get accountants, you register the company, and you start moving through the circles until you get it going, right? But to lead, it's not pointing the way. You have to lead the way, and you should be probably the one that is in front doing these. It builds a lot of credibility in the company. From the client perspective, they see you that you're paying your dues. And when they see that, they'll keep giving you more. Okay? And I will tell you, literally, all our expansions have been clients. I've never gone into a place almost with a contract signed. That's very nice, but it's also you position yourself there. They literally tell you, if you go there, I have this business for you. But the reason they're going to go to you is because they know you've already done it. So you're probably going to get on that plane and go there and open an office, right? Your role, in all that we've been talking about is, as everyone is kind of going crazy, doing their thing and running, getting work out, someone, which is you, if you're the one running the company, needs to find out what is it that you're doing and instill that purpose in the organization, right? So again, just a reflection for you to, to step back every once in a while and understand what is it that we're doing here as a business. And making sure as they go and do 100 decisions a day, once they understand that, they can, they can speed up that decision-making process and do a lot of them by themselves. Right? Also, I guess many of you can relate to this graph, but in my case, I was spending all my time right here. I was just working, and no one was looking at leading an external. By the way, everything I articulated to you took about 10, 12 years. I wouldn't be able to say that the first 8 years easily. Because I was here, I was like here, and then all of a sudden I will go and the younger engineers that we hire, I will mentor some, but you know, very little of these and very little of these. And if you don't do it, no one else will do it, right? So, you know, basically we changed the company around, and again, as I told you, live here, and it's on purpose also, that way I'm not in the trenches where all the fires happening, and I can actually give some thinking. But my main message here is try to mentor and guide the people you hire to run the day-to-day, and go to the balcony, right? So that's one of my professors taught us that, and it's very valuable. If you go to the balcony, basically imagine there is a dance floor, and this is a beautiful quote. In the dance floor, some details are evident, and there are a lot that you can learn, but it's not until you get out of the dancing multitude and you move to the balcony that you can observe the complete view. Patterns become evident and a new perspective emerges, and with it, new opportunities to make different and, in many occasions, better decisions. So as you're hashing it, go up there, because you may see something that just going to be able to be seen by you being where you're at in the hashing process, but step out, look at it, and ooh, all of a sudden you found something no one else has, right? But if you don't go up there, it's very hard for other people to do it, right? I did very little of this, so I really hate myself for that. But you know, if I could have done more, I could have seen many things before, especially the market. I guess someone needs to be looking at the market. What are the trends with, you know, and you know, maybe you heard biotech is thinking hot, and I knew that it was coming, so I focused the whole organization in biotech. But you know, if I could have done so many more things. Outsourcing is becoming very big, so I made sure all the processes and systems of the company were in place to be able to outsource with this kind of plan. But I did some, but I could have done like many more. You need to step in the balcony. The other message is the communicate. So now that you have something to communicate, you gotta make sure you communicate it. So I am like, we hire people and they get 2 days of induction, and they gotta drink, they call it the Kool-Aid, and they gotta drink the Kool-Aid, you know? And if you don't drink the Kool-Aid, you cannot start working. Now, actually, I didn't have it. It was a great idea. Someone saw me speaking about our strategy and said, why don't you video that and put it as part of the induction? You know? So, but you need to communicate and communicate once you have it clear, not only to the client, but also to the associates. This is just our workflow of communications. There is 4 weeks in a month, and we have meetings at the director level, at the management level, at the leadership level, team leaders, and then they go back up. So there's always meeting going on, very clear on how they're going to go about, you know, they're usually an hour and 30 minutes, and how the agenda that is used here is the agenda that trickles down, notes are taken, and then the information goes back up. So there's one way we also get information. This is another message to get across is marketing. This is basically learning Harvard as many of the things, but our company for the first 10 years that you see there didn't have a website. The brochure that we had was very minimum. We didn't have guides, we didn't have anything. It was a different logo, by the way. And after I took the marketing classes, and the professor started every class with this: marketing is everything, everything else is cost. So you hear that for about 100 times, and it gets to you. So we changed the logo, we hire a full-time marketing communications person, but you have to do the marketing and the sales, something we never did. And basically, I want to share with you some of the strategies that we employ, because at least in the engineering firms and our world, they're very provocative. You know, from my competitors, I'm the only one that has someone full-time doing this. But you have to, you know, from the creating awareness, you have to get it to the point where you get the behavioral parts of your clients, right? So I'm going to go fast through the slides, but you will see how we try to provoke from our clients behavioral responses about the brand, about the services, about the experience with us. And again, we're an engineering company doing very nerdy stuff, right? But I can assure you that you in your whatever if it's a product or a service, you can use all those tools that are now in the virtual world to provoke some connection with your clients. Those connections in our case are very important because they promote customer intimacy. We measure how deep they are in with us by basically creating this world and this dialogue. We have a bunch of information from associates newsletters, customer newsletters. We have e-cards, we hire people and we communicate it. So we have a bunch of tools that go through LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and the website and email, right? Things that we didn't do 5 years ago, right? But all those things it's amazing how people, and a lot of photos, we put a lot of pictures. People want to connect, in our case, with our people, which is basically the ones providing the service. And it's also very valuable between them, between the employees. They're all in the field working, they're in different offices, and through this platform, they can feel more connected and not so far apart. This is just some of the tools that we use, and again, this is for your reference in your presentation. But and this is how we segment our clients and our whole stakeholders. So we go all the way from our associates to the business partners, the clients, the collaborators, the friends of Pacific, and then the general community. That is very segmented in our mailing, in our structure. So every time we get a business card and we give it to our communication group, we let them know where they fall. So basically they're all segmented. And we may have segmented, let's say we have a client that in the executive, these are the different services that we provide. And within those services, in what arena they are. Because we write like technical articles, I get an automation article, and it's about calibration. I'm not gonna send it to the site head, he could care less. I don't wanna bombard him, but I send him to the technicians that are in the floor. So this has proven to be very, very valuable for us to increase that level of loyalty and brand awareness for ours. And these are some examples of the tools that we use. This is a full-time employee. He's been with us 3 years. And it's amazing how, I get back to Indianapolis and say, oh, I didn't know you were in Ireland. I saw you in Ireland. You were, information that before they wouldn't know. Or congratulations on this award that you guys got down in Puerto Rico. The client in Indianapolis would have never known any of that. And that closes the gap to achieve customer intimacy. This is also wanted to talk about because you guys, whoever runs the company is also a strong brand ambassador, okay? In my case, it's me, and I'm always writing articles, I'm always out there, not because of any ego trip, but it's the way, one of the elements of trusted brand is industry voice. How your brand is going to be trusted, it's going to depend a lot on how strong voice you are in the industry, especially in our type of business. And basically, I try to be very active with a voice out there about the industry, and that actually raises the name of the brand. Right? Another important thing is how, since our client is big biopharma, that reflects on our product, on our service, right? The same thing is going to happen with you. This is universal, Now, because of the virtual world, it's a two-way street. So it's not only a branded product, giving identity, differentiation, and reputation to a branded client, but now that client can come back to you, and you see it in media and everything that happens, can come back to you and brand you, right? And basically that's what we look for in our clients. Good job in this project. If you get the head of automation of one of these major pharmaceuticals to put on the, in the Facebook page or in the Twitter, great job. That's awesome. That's what we want, right? So we try to use technology to achieve all that. Sales. This is the one class I never took in business. I don't know if you guys did, but we didn't take that in business. Actually, at HBS, it wasn't even a class. We had to ask for it as an elective. Now they made it a class. But sales is so important. Nothing happens until you sell. Never had anyone in sales. But some numbers on sales is, now that you have that strategy, sales needs to be linked to strategy. So we have business development. Basically, that's the person that does the sales, is the business development manager in each office. And that person needs to know that strategy very clear. Because if not, he can mess it all up. How you incentivize, how you pay commissions, you gotta make sure it's aligned with the strategy, because he may go off or she may go off another direction just because of the incentive tools you put in place that have nothing to do with your strategy, right? So very revealing numbers on how, sales still not there even for the big companies, and it's not giving them the return they need, you know. But hopefully it will continue to grow, and people will see the importance of the sales as an executive, you know, hopefully having like even a chief sales officer, you know, in the C-suite, and understanding that sales is a very important element. Again, one of the major issues here is how strategy is not linked to sales, and one of the main things is the timing. Strategies take 3-4 years to define. The sales are every quarter. So many times the strategies of what they're going to do next is not clearly stated yet, and the sales needs to be delivering results on a quarterly basis. So there is some issues that they need to be fixing in order to improve on the sales. These are some, just basically some ideas on how to get better on the sales, and again, it's on the presentation. I'm not going to go over all of them, but wanted to touch bases on this one here. The shared vision, you already heard it, right? You need to make sure everyone in sales. Our salesperson, the business developments, they're engineers. They've been in the industry 20 years doing what they're selling. So that's a must for us. I cannot have an accountant selling engineering services, you know, or someone is a sales guy selling engineering services. So usually very expensive people, you could use it in something more productive, but that's probably the most important role that you have in your organization, sales. Usually it's you when you start, but eventually you want to have someone take care of that. Now, pricing, I don't know how much you guys even thought to the pricing in your companies, but it is a very critical element. We're still struggling with it ourselves. My clients don't let me price by the value we bring, because many times when I automate a process for them, that's hundreds of millions of dollars, but they don't want to share that with me. But basically, obviously, their processes are extremely valuable. But if you can increase that willingness to pay of your client and try to capture some of the pricing because of what they're buying, not because of what it costs, it's great, right? You gotta know your cost, that's for sure. But the pricing model, try not just to keep it here. Try to see if you can get this in your SOP and in that zone of probable agreement, if you can push it here by increasing the willingness to pay. It is not easy, it's not hard, especially when you have a lot of competitors to deal with that pricing. This is an example, very interesting. This is basically DuPont had a way of preventing leaks on their piping. And they had the residential, they had also the industrial solution. The same technology, the same cost. They were charging here, let's say $100, they were charging $450 down here, because the solution to the industrial client was preventing, you know, an environmental disaster. So the value was much higher, right? So I guess, I don't say this often, but the reason I also stay in this segment is because it's very profitable. It gives me very good margins, and it values your work. If I go to water, wastewater, food and beverage, I have to charge half the price, right? So sometimes it's very important, like it's for the client to select you, it's very important for you to select the client, because that is going to define your cost structure and your margins. So in this case, they were able to cover the whole market, and they have different pricing for all the market. That's very hard to do in my industry, but it's very nice. But if you have to choose, you can just stay here if you start getting issues here. These are some, you know, importance of making sure you get the right deals. We do select our customers. For example, we don't do generic companies. You know, the biosimilars and the generic companies, they're very in the low end in terms of investment, and we're not interested in building relationships with them. Remember, every client we have is a relationship. The time we spend in that client is time we're not spending with another client. You know? So we try to be very picky also in what client we select. It sounds weird, but trust me, you should be thinking about that, because the clients that you will be serving will be shaping your organization, and that's very important. Here it's important to know if you're in the relationship or transactional business. Both are okay, but remember, once you understand which one you are, it's much clearer not to mess it up. You know, if you're in the relationship business, you need to make sure you have a relationship sales type of program. If you're in the transaction business, that you have a transaction sales program. And just try to understand which one you're in so you don't mess it up. Other message on sales is the GOB to GOB. It's called good old boy to good old boy. In Indiana, we have a dossier that sells. He went to Purdue, he's the business development there, right? In Chicago, we have a guy that graduated from Chicago. In Ireland, our business development is an Irish guy. You're not going to have a Puerto Rican selling to an Irish guy. You're not going to have, a Hoosier selling to a Southern. So make sure on the business development sales side, you try to still very group by culture, regions, and you got to make sure that if it's a relationship business, that goes all the way down to the individuals that you're hiring to do your sales. I've never closed a deal from my desk. With these large companies, it requires me to be there. They want to see me. So the business development manager does the dirty work, but when it comes to the real thing, I need to be there, whether emails and dealings with them. Never close a deal from my desk, so if you want just someone to do your work, it may not happen, especially, again, I'm framing all this, having huge clients, big, powerful clients, you're very small. It's going to be you, the one going there and show them you're committed and you're interested and you value the deal. In our industry, B2B, this may not happen for B2C, but B2B, basically, we are, we have a group of people in the decision-making units that are making the decision. It's not one person. And every time we have a deal, this page, we have it printed. We have pages of it. And every time we're going after a deal, we write down who's this person, who's that person. We go very methodical. Okay, this is the DMU. Who's going to cover who? Okay, you're going to email this person. I'm going to have a cup of coffee with this person. I'm going to talk to this person. Let's regroup. What did you find? Let's go back again, right? So it's a very thought out process. And make sure you know your DMU every time you're going to do a deal, especially if it's with large companies. This is the difference between service and product. Obviously, there is some very clear differences, and you need to take them into account. And here, basically, wanted to show you the importance of metrics. We didn't have metrics in the company for the first 7-8 years. Now we have very clear KPIs. Everyone in the management level, you saw the strategy, right? The customer intimacy, the 3 ingredients, technical competency, commitment, culture, trusted brand. We have initiatives to foster that, and those initiatives are handed through KPIs to every leader in the organization. The way they are compensated, the way the bonus work, is by completing the KPIs. If you want, again, many of the things you're seeing, if you want to see the KPIs we use and how do we measure our business development manager, our operation manager, I can send you all that stuff. We're more than happy to do it, right? But it's all very measured. We're engineers, so the guys like it. Everything is very measured, and then we see at the end of the year what everything has weights. We see the results, we give scores, and based on that, they get their bonuses. And it's very clear, they like it, they know what they need to be working on, they know why, and they appreciate that it's a very objective process, it's not a subjective process. That thing I wanted to talk about was globalization. The world is not flat. Maybe from here on your computer you can reach Japan and Australia, but when you're gonna go out there and do the business deals, the world is not flat. There is 3 aspects that make it not flat. The first one is very obvious, is distance. Distance is always going to matter. You're going to have time zones. They kill me. That's the number 1 reason I'm here because of the business, is because I can fly everywhere with one flight. It was taking me from San Juan to Ireland about 15 hours just to go there. So now I go 6 hours here, there, and then I go back on a Monday, come back on Friday. I rest. On Monday I can go to Rhode Island, I can go to Indiana, I can come back on the train, and it's very nice. But you're going to have the temporal distance, you're going to have the geographic distance, psychological, that's all obvious. The biggest distance, in my case, is the market segment. I don't know how much you know the industry, but biopharmaceuticals are clustered in 3 main regions. Puerto Rico, the US, mainly in New Jersey, Philadelphia, and California, some in the Midwest, and then you have Ireland, and Singapore. Dominican Republic, which is right next to Puerto Rico, to me is as far as Australia when it comes to my business. It's very far, right? But Ireland is like next door, extremely close. So market-wise, the same thing is going to happen in your business. Probably that your proximity geographically not necessarily means that's where your customers are, or who has a similar need and will assimilate what you're doing similarly. The other one, obviously, is the national context. You need to make sure you're addressing all those elements. Ethics is a big one. Labor laws is a big one. Puerto Rico is like a socialist country. Here, you hire at will. So here, you can fire the person if you want, in a way. Not that we do that. Over there, I mean, you fire someone, you're probably going to go to jail. So it is very different. And how you write your policies and procedures, which is what you use to try to align that, is a big challenge. The third one, but the one that I like the most is, as you grow businesses in different locations, the resources are going to be very different, okay? So you're going to be very good in resources in one location, and you're going to be a startup in another location. And you can leverage, but it's a big challenge. Now, when you move to another market, your landscape changes, it's much bigger, which is very nice. I know, these major cities get exposed to very innovative technologies, but the truth is they're hopefully run like pilots and they can be expanded, but always think about the bigger market. To me, it was very revealing. Now, as you go to bigger markets, your competitors are much bigger. That's what happened to me. My competitors in Puerto Rico were very little. Now, once I went to the US and I went to Ireland, I was competing with Emerson, with Rockwell, because those big companies are the ones that are everywhere, right? The small companies, the local, regional, are not going to be, they're just focused in that market, they're not going to be everywhere. So be prepared as you expand. If you're a small fish in that big pond, be prepared that your opponents are going to be huge. And actually there's a lot of white space and places for you to get in, but it's a challenge. The three biggest challenges we have in the company operating globally is the business cycles of the companies are different. So you're going to have companies that are very mature. Puerto Rico is very mature, cash cow. US is growing. Ireland is a startup. And how me as running them all understand that and don't put the pressures on one that I can put on the other one. So that balance is a big challenge. You need to do a lot of assimilate the context they're in. And you want to do all this while you're giving the client the same experience, right? So at the end of the day, you want the brand experience to be the same, especially when the client is the same and they talk to one another. So if I get referred by Angel in Puerto Rico to go to Angel in Dublin and I suck in Dublin, Puerto Rico is going to tell me what's up. I mean, like in one day, because they talk all the time. So you got to make sure you give them the same experience. Here are some, tools to achieve that. Our four main ones is the policies and procedures. We have very clear policies and procedures across all offices. They're almost identical. The lawyers are the ones who change them for the things that differ. But all in all, they are the ones that keep some unity. And then all the differences. Technology, we use it a lot to communicate across offices, to talk to one another and to talk to the clients. Also, we do a lot of cross-pollination. Engineers are going to all the different offices. This is proven very valuable. So we hire people from Ireland and we send them to Puerto Rico for 2 weeks or to Indiana for a month. They understand the culture, they see what we're trying to do. When they go back, it's a whole different game. So it's a good investment to have. And the good old boy that you already heard. And this, I think, is my last slide. Basically, once you go global and you expand your market and you follow these big clients, you're going to differentiate yourself totally from the local competitors. In my case, all our contracts nowadays, the majority are corporate contracts. They see us as an entity that can serve them in multiple sites. So my contracts at a local level are very little. Many things are negotiated at the global level, and it's very nice because I'm still very small, but I'm dealing with the corporate guys. They're okay paying you a bit more, and they like, that you are in different places and they can obtain your services from different places. Obviously, you get a bigger market. Your competitors are going to be seeing you very different. They literally will see you as more powerful, even if you're not. Even if you're struggling, even if you are really putting a stress on your resources, the local competitor is going to see you much more powerful and is going to be intimidated because of the fact that you're playing in a bigger landscape, right? And that is always powerful. The best defense is your offense. For us, going to all these markets has been the best defense at a local level. Just because once you go abroad, you're learning from those markets too. You bring the intelligence and you give it to all your company. The people, I mean, you just exponentially increase the way you can feed your company information back and make it a better company. And as I told you, we're in the business of customer intimacy. We have to have the client trust us. If I can hold them and service them in different locations around the world, what does that do to the intimacy that they'll have with me? So I just wanted to close that loop that if I wanted to compete and differentiate by customer intimacy, I have to be there with them wherever they go, and I have to help them. I have a client, they open a plant in China, in Suzhou. I had to go to China. I had to service them. But that just raises the stakes with that client in all the other sites, just because I am taking care of them wherever they need me, right? So it matches very nicely with our strategy. Final thoughts, people do business with people they like and trust. This is not as shallow as this may look. The like has many angles. They like that you know what you're doing. My clients, I work with them, so they knew I can go into the computer, they can give me the password, and I'm gonna get it solved. So that technical competency, that capacity is the likability. It's not the good morning, you have to walk the talk, and you have to be able to be nice, obviously, but also they have to, you have to deliver. And that's basically, they're gonna give you their trust if they know you can walk that talk. Last thought, I love this. This is how my professor closed the last class with us. But basically, you will have, through your journey, 10 times more questions than answers, right? One huge advice is learn to love the questions. Don't get rattled by the questions. I didn't know, I swear, I didn't know 80% of what I just told you when I was running the company. I wasn't able to frame it. I was just going with the emotions many ways. But try to embrace them, let them not rattle you, and as long as they're coming, I think you're gonna be in a good position. You have to stay curious, you have to stay asking those questions, but love them, Following up, the moment you don't have any more questions, you should start, getting in trouble. But it is a beautiful quote, have patience over all that is unsolved in your heart, try to love the questions themselves, do not seek for the answer that cannot be given to you. Because you will not be able to leave them, and the point is to leave everything. Leave the questions now. So, good luck, and if you have any questions, you guys were all very quiet, but I don't know, if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Sorry, quick question. Can you describe your experience in your first hire, or things like that, and what was going through your mind, and the need to grow, and what was...
I was very lucky with my clients. How everything happened, I went from Eli Lilly, a control engineer, got an MBA, and I went to Johnson & Johnson as a manager. I hated the management job, and Lilly called me and said, why don't you quit, start a company, and give us the technical service? I did one contract, I did good, and they told me, here's a bigger contract, go and hire an engineer from college. This discipline wasn't really taught in college, so I hired him, I trained him, and then they gave me a bigger contract. So my clients were spoon-feeding me, and I will hire, so I had one engineer in the first year, and it's funny because I was working 2 shifts, Saturdays and Sundays, just because I thought that, I couldn't invest and maybe I'd lose the money. And then the next year I had 10. And then once I realized, wait a minute, I have to have policies, procedures, a human resources initiative, put everything into perspective. But it started all with baby steps. And it's funny, when you hire these engineers, you're interviewing them in a master bedroom of a residential apartment. And that's what happens with many. But they kind of buy into it, they see that it's working, and they go along with it. Any other questions?
You said about induction, that someone suggested that you turn your presentation into a video.
Yes, yes.
Can you just say a bit more about what you meant by customer induction and what the benefits of that are?
Sure. We have, as I told you, the culture is very important in the service business. And hiring these engineers mostly are recent grads, or they may have worked now in other competitors, but sometimes you hire recent, right out of college resources. So induction is also very typical in the clients. Actually, I use many of what I do is what I saw in the client, but I hire an engineer and he's 2 days in the office. He reads the policies and procedures. We are very procedural, it's very procedural, just because it's a regulated industry. So reads all that, traveling and logic policy, compensation, all the policies we have. And then we give him a set of basic trainings about the services we provide.
Okay.
That's 2 days, reading in the office.
And out of interest, would you ever do an induction for a customer?
Well, we basically give presentations to them.
Yeah.
And present the company and tell them how we go about it. We have our presentation. Many of our clients, you see how these are, they all know each other.
Right.
So they already know who we are at this time. But definitely you gotta go there, tell them your vision, your mission, how many years you've been in business. Many of these slides are in the standard presentation we give to the client. And then we give them the references, they call references. That's basically how it works. Now our employees, when they work with the client, they get also the Kool-Aid from the client. I mean, when you service a client, you have to be about 2-3 days taking all their Kool-Aid before you go into their operations, just the way they work.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on the importance of the business development person being aligned with the strategy of the business and how it's often kind of...
Yep. So just so you know, we started with business development 2 years ago. I didn't have it for 15 years. So I've sold 135 millions and I was the business development. Tell you how it started. When I was a client, I will get a system integrator to sell me services. He comes and he gives you this beautiful presentation and the pitch, blah, blah, blah. They give you the service, they assign these engineers that they don't know anything. And all of a sudden I ended up doing the work. So I said, when I have a company, I'll never put anyone, I'll be the one in front. I am creating the expectation and then I'll articulate that to my team and I'll make sure what I promise is what I deliver. So I hated the business development stuff. Now, as the business has evolved, the clients were the ones telling me, like Rockwell, Emerson, Siemens, my competitors at the large end, they have account executives, people that are maintaining the relationship. And it was starting to diminish how they view our company in terms of trusted brand if I was the one doing the sales. So that's how we say we're large enough now to have a business development. Now, who are we going to get? It's the hardest position to fill. It literally has to be someone that knows the industrial automation, that knows the regulatory environment, and that wants to do sales. So locally in Indianapolis, we had a guy with us that had an MBA, and he's very interested in the business side. So I literally told him, you are the perfect candidate to be a business development manager. I'll work it with you. He's liking it, but it's not easy. In Puerto Rico, basically the person we got, she was very afraid. She's Georgia Tech engineer, automation all her life in the industry, 24 years experience. She has an MBA. And I told her, I think you should do this. But they hate it. They said, I'm not a salesperson. I said, this is not about sales. It's about relationships and about articulating a solution. Remember that we develop the solution with the client. So the person that is talking to them needs to know everything. And obviously, we're a small company, so you want to make sure the trust starts off very high. So I had to go from me and my partner in the US, who was also, Purdue Chemic, top engineer in this field. If we're going to hand this to someone, it needs to be someone. After that, then we have very clear mechanisms when they write a proposal. The section of the proposal that is defined as a scope of works is the section that we hand to the lead team, the leader and the team, to execute. So basically, we make sure that we communicate the expectation that we build with the client and what the client is expecting is what we're articulating to the team to deliver. But by far the hardest position to fill, I guess in any technology company is probably going to be very similar, because you're actually creating something new, so it's very hard to find people. But my role, let it be known, is the two main roles I have is strategy and business development. Those are the two main activities that I should be doing that I try to focus on.
Thank you.
Any other question? So again, this presentation, I'll leave it here. Any questions you have on anything, I can assure you that every single slide of that has like 3 or 4 white papers and many other frameworks behind it. So if there is anything in particular that caught your attention and you want to know more about it, drop me an email. I'll be more than happy to send it to you, right? So good luck in your endeavors, and hopefully this was of help to you, right? Thank you.